What's up, everybody? Hope you had a great weekend. Also, hit like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's just hit the two buttons that matter, and let's get after it. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite average to good to great podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Tony Miola. And fun fact, everybody, Charlie came into the show triggered. He's already triggered. There's nothing you can say in the chat right now that's going to trigger Charlie. He's already at 100. He's hot. His studio, his little set.
I've calmed down. You know, there's a thing about someone's workplace, right? You have an office, you have a workplace, and when you come back, you expect to find it the way you left it. But I know people in the chat, tell me if you vibe with this. If you come back to your spot and things are moved, are misplaced, are taken down, that's disrespecting your space. This is supposed to be my little home, my little comfort place. So, yes, it set me off, but I'm good. But I know people can vibe with me. If people mess with your stuff,
yeah,
you know,
safe space.
It's gonna set you off.
Yes, I think I can vouch for Big Tones as well. That if anybody started moving my stuff around me behind me,
what if half that wall was down?
I'd be pretty pissed. Yes. I'd be coming after my kids. Pretty hot.
Yeah, Elf on the Shelf completely destroyed my stuff.
Get out of here. I know it was you guys. I just start blaming them without even having any.
Right now.
He's hot. He's hot. All right, so what we got on the show today, MLS Cup final recap. We're talking our Mount Rushmore of MLS coaches all time. What do you guys think? Can't wait to get into the conversation there. We're going to get into Don Garber's State of the League address. Christian Pulisic is hurt. Got a calf injury. Could be out for a while. We'll discuss that. AC Milan losing this weekend. That's both of Big Tones' clubs, the Red Bulls and AC Milan losing this weekend. See what happens, Big Tones, when you don't actually make a prediction for MLS Cup? Bad things happen to your teams. Big Tones never made a prediction.
Man, if the host would have done his job right, he would have asked me, but he forgot. He couldn't wait to get out of the show the other day, if you remember.
I had to hit the airport. I'm sorry. I had to get out. But Big Tone, so what were your thoughts on the performance overall? LA Galaxy win their 6th ever MLS Cup, the most ever in league history. What's crazy for the Galaxy, just to pivot to them as champs very quickly, they won just 8 games the year before. They finished 13th in a 14-team conference, and they had only won 2 playoff games in their previous 8 seasons, and they won twice as many this time around in 6 weeks to win their 6th MLS Cup. So fair play to them. Congratulations to Greg Vanney and all of the players, especially without Ricky Pooch. That was a big storyline. I thought that's what gave the Red Bulls a chance. I thought the Red Bulls came out pretty flat, and not having Reyes, who was a late scratch due to sickness, ended up being too big of a loss they couldn't overcome.
Yeah, first off, I made the prediction on air. I called the game on Sirius, so we called it live. My prediction was, and it's on tape so I can tell you, I was rooting for the Red Bulls. I thought LA Galaxy would win. I called 2-1, but I called it in extra time.
Run it back, Des. I'm calling BS. Run it back.
No, Des may have it or not. It was on, but we got it. I'll get it for you.
I remember, Tony. I do remember.
No, but I called it in extra time. But yeah, with regards to the game, first 20 minutes outstanding by the LA Galaxy. The surprise for me were how high they pressed the Red Bulls. I don't think the Red Bulls were ready for it. They take that gut punch, 8 minutes in, the ball by Gaston Brugman, who was the replacement for Ricky Pooch, who was the big storyline going in. That was a Ricky Pooch-esque type of pass, right? So he threads the needle, Paintsill scores. Could Cornell maybe have done a little bit better? Yeah, and I thought the Red Bulls didn't react well. And then Joveljic with a really good goal to make it 2-0. Good finish, off balance, kind of hits it awkwardly.
Super toe poke, right?
Yeah,
could Cornell do better on that one too?
That one, I don't think so. Watching it back, the first one, no doubt about it. But of course, I tell young forwards all the time: shoot down by the goalkeeper's feet if you're going to go low, or obviously stretch them as far as you can go, and then up by their ears. Right, like that's hard for the goalkeeper to react, and it proved too much for Cornell. And I didn't think the Red Bulls reacted really well. And then Sandro Schwartz made the switch defensively. Ilo came in for Reyes in the middle of the field. He moved him left and put the older Nealis, Sean Nealis, in the middle of the field. And that seemed to calm things down and help Paintsill was killing them down the left-hand side. Dylan Nealis couldn't deal with him. Sean Nealis helped him. And then the Red Bulls reacted really well. They knew restarts, LA Galaxy's an Achilles heel. They get the goal. They reacted really well in the second half. Moved Forsberg out to the left a little bit. He found some space, but in the end, and the last 20 minutes, they poured it on. I mean, it was through caution to the wind, went forward, and just couldn't find an equalizer, and the Galaxy win the 6th one. So the Galaxy did well defensively. Brugman was great. I thought Emmy Garces, for me, was the player of the match for the Galaxy. But yeah, it's kind of my breakdown.
I like Delgado. I think
Delgado was good too.
It was good.
It was very, very good.
Yeah, I thought with Garces in particular, he plays center back next to Yoshida. He actually came into the starting 11 maybe 4 games before the end of the season and made the position his own. And I actually thought the Galaxy's defense, which was a bit of an Achilles heel, they gave up a lot of goals this season, started to tighten up and not give out so many easy chances. And I think Garces was a big reason why. I was really impressed with him in particular. And to your point, Tones, the first 20 minutes, I thought the Galaxy did exactly what they should do in a cup final at home. Just play on the front foot and put so much pressure into the Red Bulls. I actually was surprised, given how well the Red Bulls had been playing in the playoffs up until this point, that they looked a little shocked and not prepared for what the Galaxy were going to do. And that felt like, why wouldn't the Galaxy do that? You know? So Chuck, what were your thoughts on the game? I thought overall the Galaxy were the better team, but it was a game where I didn't think the Red Bulls played to their very best. And maybe when they had a little bit more urgency at the end, they looked a lot more dangerous. But at that point, too little, too late.
Call it how you want, right? I think we all had LA Galaxy winning this. I know as tough as that was for Tony. But we talked about this matchup and how New York Red Bulls really didn't have an attacking threat, striker, quote unquote, right? Dante Van Zier, you didn't even see him touch the ball, right? He was irrelevant in this match. He was a ghost.
I thought Lewis Morgan was quiet too.
Very quiet, but he's not a striker. And right. It goes back to John Tolkien. He might have, 70 plus touches in a game, but who's he serving the ball to? He only had 1 assist on the season in regular season. So that kind of gives you an idea of, wow, talented player gets up and down, but who is he ultimately crossing the ball to? And it's nothing. He keeps he's good on set pieces, but he's not having to supply any one particular striker or one attacking player. And they're very good in transition, but I thought what LA Galaxy did so well is he came out, Reyes is a scratch right before the match, hit him smack him in the mouth, right? Punch him in the mouth, get after it, score 2 goals. And then they say, like most teams who get up on the Red Bulls, break us down. We'll give you the ball. We'll allow Nealis to have all the touches. We'll allow LA to have all the touches. We're just going to sit back. When your defenders are the ones with the most touches in the match for the Red Bulls, you could see they just didn't have an answer. And I thought from that standpoint, Greg Vanney and his idea of this tactical breakdown of how he was going to see New York Red Bulls fail to try and break a low block down was a masterclass, because in the end, the New York Red Bulls, they just didn't have any creativity because they're not used to playing in that manner. So I thought it was a job well done. It was probably it wasn't that difficult. I mean, towards the end, you could feel like, okay, New York Red Bulls are starting to build some momentum, but at the end, I didn't think they were troubled too much.
Yeah, that's a good breakdown from both of you guys. I also want to give a shout out to just the team building that they did. Greg Vanney and Will Kuntz working together. They had 3 transfer windows together this past year. Getting Gabriel Peck was an excellent buy from Vasco da Gama. 22-year-old, got him for about $10 million. Joseph Paintsill got him from Genk for about $10 million as well. They got Diego Fagundes for pretty much nothing from Austin FC. Edwin Cerrillo from FC Dallas. Maya Yoshida. Yamane comes in. You got John Nelson from St. Louis City. Like, they did a nice job of finding experienced players, finding some
talented potential Garces,
guys,
Yamane, right?
Yeah, guys that maybe needed a second chance, right? They did a really nice job in getting John McCarthy, obviously, really stabilizing the goalkeeper position as well. I thought, a lot of masterclass moves for them, and I think a model for if you want to have success at MLS, the Galaxy gave you a blueprint of what that should look like moving forward. We'll get into
how about
Don
keeping
Garber's.
Jovic, Jimmy? Keep Jovic.
That's true.
They were looking for a 9 right at the beginning of the year. They were looking for a guy that was going to replace. No, Chicharito was gone. Jovic, they were unsure about. Right? They didn't know. And the guy, double-figure goals, gets another one, the eventual game winner. By the way, the Keane celebration from Jovic, scoring the second goal. Good on him, for recognizing the history. If I remember correctly, wasn't that around the same area that Keane scored the winner 10 years ago? It was right
against us, in 2014. Yeah,
was it right there?
Chuck,
right?
Chuck knows.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah.
He
hit that.
You had a different angle than we did on that one.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? It was nice.
But yeah,
and Robbie Keane was there, right? So it felt everything felt right. It was written in the stars. Galaxy at home, right? They were the better team. They had the better game plan.
Without Ricky Puig, we thought there was a chance. Red Bulls didn't play well.
They had their chance, though. You had the sequence, right? They go down one end, and Coronel makes the save on Jovic, right? And then the ball goes immediately down the other end of the field. And if you could have drawn up that crazy play, there's one guy the Red Bulls wanted on the ball at the top of the box, and that was Forsberg, and he nicks it off the post. And then he had that other one that he whiffed on right at the end of the game, that wild scramble in the box, but that was their chance. They were never going to be the more dominant attacking side, so they knew that they had to take their chances when they came, and that was the one to get themselves back in. They got the save on one end and should have buried it on the other end, and they don't. But the Galaxy, I think, deserve
set
winners.
Piece merchants. That's what they are.
Fine margins, baby. The fine margins. Well, Greg Vanney, head coach of the LA Galaxy, becomes the 4th coach in league history to win championships with 2 different teams. Did it with Toronto FC as well. Well, speaking of Greg Vanney, we kind of teased it at the top. We're going to get into a Mount Rushmore of MLS coaches all time. Who should be on that wall? Who are the 4 names? Should Greg Vanney be one of those now that he's won 2 different MLS Cups? Let's take a look at his resume just to tee it up. So 2017 MLS Cup champion, Supporters Shield winner with Toronto FC. First coach in MLS history to win the domestic treble, though we could argue it's relatively easy to win the Canadian Cup, or easier than winning the US Open Cup. 2018, I'm just throwing that in there. 2018 CONCACAF Champions League finalist, won the MLS Cup with 2024 with LA Galaxy, won MLS Coach of the Year as well with Toronto FC. He's not on my Mount Rushmore, but he could get into the conversation as his career goes on and the more championships that he accrues. Charlie, coming to you first. Who's on your Mount Rushmore?
Okay, first off,
and explain yourself.
I see some people in there. Ben Olsen, Patrick, come on, let's be real. Peter Novak, also, let's be real. I love Peter, but not Mount Rushmore. All right, so
Ben Olsen apparently.
etched in stone. Bruce Arena, right? The first one.
Hands down.
George Washington, Mount Rushmore.
He's George Washington. He's number 1.
And I mean, his regular season wins speak for itself. His postseason wins speak for itself, and then his championships, right? So he
won
leads
the
all
first
categories.
2 MLS Cups. Yeah,
and he won in the 3 with LA Galaxy. So DC, LA Galaxy, and then I'll throw this caveat: Supporters Shield with the New England Revolution in 2021. Not easy. And not only Supporters Shield,
might have been his best work.
Yeah,
might have been his best work, actually.
Best record of all time, right? So we're talking different generations, different players, different budgets.
Still winning.
So
still success.
Number 1 by a mile. Okay.
By a mile.
Here we go.
Number 2.
Ziggy Schmidt.
Ooh, I like that. I'm in. I'm on board.
2 MLS Cups, 3 Supporter Shields, 2 Coach of the Year, and Coach of the Year doesn't really mean all that much when you're talking about Mount Rushmore, but it just throws in.
It does.
I also want to throw in.
Have any? That'd be weird. You have to win.
He's second in regular season wins with 240, and second with postseason wins in 26. So I think that's a guarantee, right? For those 2. The third one, Bob Bradley. I know he only has 1 MLS Cup compared to some of the others, and one supporter shield.
That's right.
With LAFC though, different time. I look at some of the coaches that came out after him, Noonan, Jesse Marsh, but this is a coach who is dialed in. I mean, he's 194 regular season wins. He's got 15 postseason wins. So there are other metrics that back him up for being on Mount Rushmore. and might add, there's not too much depth after 2, right? And Bob, I think, is absolutely deserving of that. Now, 4 is between Schmetzer and Kinnear. And I went with Kinnear in this one. And Yallop has the right to I mean, Yallop has 2 MLS Cups and 1 Supporter Shield. But I want Dom Kinnear, 2 MLS Cups, 1 Supporter Shield. That is my Mount Rushmore. Now, that 4th can change real quick. And I think Greg Vanney's really pushing to get up there sooner than later. You can't forget about, Cherundolo, if he's able to continue to win and win another MLS Cup. He's been to 2 finals.
Wilfred Nancy could be in there at some point.
Absolutely, Wilfred Nancy.
Yeah.
And who knows if Berhalter has this crazy run with the Chicago Fire and can turn things around. But for me, those are the 4.
All right.
Peter Vermees, he's got 203 wins, but
all right,
I just don't know. I don't think he makes Mount Rushmore for me.
Okay, so I'm next. All right, so first and foremost, I got Bruce Arena for all the reasons that you mentioned. And then when you tack on the success he had with the U.S. men's national team, getting us to a quarterfinal, our furthest ever, that just adds volumes to him being the best coach, American coach we've ever had on the men's side. Okay, and then second, I got Ziggy Schmid. Now, there's one thing I want to add with Ziggy Schmid. Now, before, when early MLS got started, there was only a couple colleges that I thought were producing, were factories for professional players. Go. No. Listen, we're talking Brad Friedel.
Don't bring up college. I don't want to hear college.
But listen,
I don't want to hear college.
I think it matters.
Why wouldn't you bring it up?
I don't want to hear college.
No, but he created an environment that fostered a professional mentality, which is obviously proven by him being a professional coach at some point. And then,
so Sasha Sharovsky should be on the Mount Rushmore by that standard.
No, because he didn't coach at MLS. So I'm just adding another layer to why Ziggy should be on Mount Rushmore.
Okay,
that's
add
all.
Layers. All right.
But you got Brad Friedel, Joe Max Moore, Kobe Jones, Paul Caligiuri, Paul Crumpy. These guys were all pivotal in helping grow the game, and we're standing on their shoulders as to why MLS is where it is. Then you add in players that he brought in: Bocanegra, Nick Raimondo, myself, though I was a walk-on, he didn't recruit me. and then, but you have Greg Vanney, right? Who played for him for 3 years at UCLA, but now had a successful career and now is going on to be a successful coach. Eddie Lewis is doing some great things behind the scenes with his Toca stuff. There's so many tethers to that, and Virginia would be another one. Bruce was, and where Tony came out of, and so anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Ziggy and Bruce for creating these environments at the college level that were really early academies in some ways, because those academies didn't exist in early MLS. Okay, and then third, I got Bob Bradley. I'm with you on him. I think what's interesting too, and maybe what separates him from the rest, is that he won the double with Chicago Fire. He's the expansion coach master. He won the double in his first year. It's the first time
100%. Chivas USA. He was
Chivas
fantastic.
USA. He won Coach of the Year with them, got them into the playoffs, made them competitive. Bob knows what he's doing. And those are all different eras. In 98, that's when he won the double with Chicago Fire, the Open Cup and MLS Cup. And then in 2006, he won Coach of the Year and got Chivas into the playoffs. And then he 2019 with LAFC got Supporters Shield. There's a consistency to that's over a 21-year span. So I think Bob should be on there.
You might as well throw the U.S. men's national team in there too. Get into a Confederations Cup final. That.
Agreed.
That's legit. You beat Spain, who won a World Cup. I don't care.
We won a group in 2010 as well. The first time we've ever won a World Cup group.
100%. Right? And we won World Cup qualifying. So from that standpoint, there's only probably 3 names that could even think about doing that in terms of MLS coaches.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to continue to give a little bit of more love for Bob for these little things that maybe get unnoticed during his career. And then lastly, and I think Big Tones might be the only one that agrees with me on this.
By the way, when I think about, you are out of your mind if Bob Bradley's not on your top 4. That's all I'm going to say. You are out.
I might be out of my mind
insane.
now.
Okay, wait, let's not bury anything here. I still got my 4th pick. So I think with regard to when I think about Mount Rushmore, I think about people that help build soccer in this country, and maybe that doesn't fit the profile of what this ask is, and just it's MLS only. And I've added some other areas of college and national team or whatever, but I have Bob Gansler as my 4th. That guy was taking responsibility and coaching players at the national team level, U20s, U19s for so long in the 70s and 80s. Really tough period when there's no NASL and no MLS, and still trying to do stuff with the Milwaukee Rampage and the A-League and trying to create good environments for players. I'm biased because I played for the guy and I had a lot of success when I was playing for him. Me and Big Tones both played for him. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. 1990, he led our team to the World Cup in Italy, which was obviously a pivotal moment for U.S. soccer and allowed us to host the World Cup in 94. And I just wanted to give Bob a shout out. Whether he deserves to be in the MLS, maybe, he only coached 6 or 7 years in the league. He won an Open Cup in 2000.
I'd say
Open Cup
doesn't qualify.
MLS.
But
okay, that's fair.
Right.
But I didn't want to not have him be part of the conversation.
No,
so
I completely agree with you on that. I'm happy that you acknowledge someone from the
I'm
past
acknowledging Bob Gansler.
Right.
Shout out to
like,
Bob.
It's like acknowledging Glenn Mooch Marinek, right?
I miss Smooch. Yeah. Rest in peace. All right, let's go to Big Tones.
So I took mine from a different angle, right? I took mine maybe from the angle of winning championships, right? For me, if you haven't won, because we now have 7 coaches that have won multiple championships in this thing, that Greg Vanney now obviously included in that list, you couldn't be on my list. So Bob Bradley was out from that standpoint.
Woo!
My first, not to get too deep into Bruce and Ziggy, those were my 1 and 2. You guys have already kind of touched on everything that those guys have done. As a matter of fact, isn't the award now named after Ziggy, right? The MLS Coach of the Year award named after Ziggy. Yeah. My third one was Brian Schmetzer for the job that he's done. When you talk about being involved in the city, in the culture, I mean, he is Mr. Seattle Sounder to me, and his teams are always. Greg Vanney's had multiple years in LA last year where things what were they 13th place. Guys
what
like
about
some of these guys
during the regular season, does that not count?
Consistency does, yeah. And Brian Schmetzer's been consistent through the regular season with all of his teams, right? And always battling at the top of the Western Conference. And then my fourth one is Dominic Kinnear, because I think of all, and I'm kicking myself, Jimmy. I'm so glad you brought Bob Gansler, because I've said time and time again, he is the guy in American soccer that gets the least credit for doing such a great job. But Dominic Kinnear, I struggled with the multiple guys because, this conversation comes with Greg Vanney winning his second. Dominic Kinnear, 5th in wins, 536 games as a head coach. Here was the kicker for me. Here is the kicker. He's now been an assistant coach for 3 years, right? And I know you don't get wins for assistant coach, but he's part of something that's in 107 games together with Pat Noonan. They've won 50 of those. They've only lost 25 of those. It's part of a supporter shield. And I've said time and time again, with all of these jobs opened up, I can't understand how Dominic Kinnear, he's been interviewed, doesn't get another job. But I wanted to make sure he got credit. But Charlie already had Dominic Kinnear on his list. So I thought I would be the only one to have Dom on the list, but I wasn't. And that's so I took it from that standpoint. You had to win multiple championships because now we've got 7 who have done that. Look, Bob Bradley, if you told me that you wanted, I think everyone agrees Bruce is number 1, right? Like that's everyone's number 1. If someone said, I'll put Bob Bradley number 2 for everything that he's done, yeah, no question about it. But I took it from the MLS angle because that was the assignment.
Not even top 4 in MLS?
Bob Bradley?
Yeah.
Well, I just gave you my list.
I know, but I'm saying
not top 4.
In terms of regular season wins and postseason wins and
Bob is tied with Dominic on postseason wins. I told you my criteria was to start. You had to win multiple MLS Cups because now we have a bunch of guys who have done it. Bruce obviously with 5, and there's a bunch of guys: Yallop, Dom, Caleb Porter, Schmetzer, Vanney now, and Ziggy who have won it.
I don't know what Bob did to you, Tony. This is just
I love Bob. Incredible. What are you crazy? I think Bob should be on the front of everyone's list. Don't make stuff up. I'm telling you how I do it.
He's a Jersey guy, Tony. How can you leave him out?
So by your math, you have Caleb Porter above Bob.
Hey, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy.
No,
exactly.
No, I don't. No, I really don't. Just so you know. By the way, when we do this, we got to know that Charlie's list should be like CBS Paramount Plus's list, and everyone else's list is just no good because it's not Charlie's list.
I just can't for my life of me think of Bob not in the top 4.
Right. And I can't for the life of me think of how Schmetzer is not in anyone's top 4 or somebody else. Like that's how we look at it, right? So I look at it.
I'll raise my hand and say that I had bias because I played for the 4 coaches that I nominated. I didn't get to play for Schmetzer. I hear only great things about Schmetzer, but I didn't have that those high pressure situations with those guys to know how they solve problems and how they manage teams and how they build teams. I didn't get to really experience that. So that's why Schmetzer was a little bit on the outside for me, despite my utmost respect and admiration for what he's accomplished with the Sounders.
Yeah, I think Schmetzer, that was tough to leave Schmetzer off. And it was going between Dom and Schmetzer. And I think for Schmetzer,
I played for Dom as well. Yeah, Dom's great.
For me, it's the regular season inconsistency because he does get his team to go towards the end, right? We always hear the story. Doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you finish the regular season. And he has a knack for getting the Seattle Sounders to be playing at their best at the end of the season. And they ride that momentum and that wave right into an MLS Cup appearance, right? That's typically what happens. But when you watch Schmetzer's teams play through the more than half of the season, you're like, what the hell is this? And so just from that standpoint alone, it was tough for me to go, this guy is Mount Rushmore coach.
But if that's the criteria, like, quite honestly, you wouldn't put all of Bruce's teams in like the most beautiful playing style. DC United did for a little while, but there were times where like you watch it and go, what are they doing? Until you bring in all these great players, but you're judging them on winning in the end, right?
Well,
that's how you're
he
judging
did it. He did it in different eras with different teams,
right? Yeah,
which Schmetzer did not do. Schmetzer's been Seattle till he dies, and he's inherited.
But I don't want to penalize Schmetzer because he's Seattle till he dies, right?
You can't compare Bruce Arena and Schmetzer. Like there's no comparison.
Yeah, no one. Yeah,
you're saying teams how they play. You know what I'm saying?
I love when Chuck argues with us, though he's agreeing with us. That's my favorite version of Chuck. I absolutely love that. All right, we're taking our first break and call. What you want? When we come back, Don Garber has said some things, and we're going to discuss said things. So don't go anywhere.
If you love football, this is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets.
The stuff of absolute dreams.
Welcome back to Disagree If You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Chuck Wagon and Big Tones.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Bruce won 4 supporter shields.
Nobody's disagreeing with you. No one's disagreeing with you. Maybe people in the chat. I don't know. So Don Garber had his usual annual State of the League address ahead of MLS Cup. And there were 3 things that we wanted to discuss: the schedule change, roster rules, and Leagues Cup / US Open Cup participation. We're going to get to our quote board, okay? Because Garber, MLS Commissioner Don Garber, who just got a contract extension, hinted at a new schedule, okay? And it looks like there's going to be a partial break during the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup and a break during the 2026 World Cup. And here is his first quote: "I think now we could be the only league or one of only 2 leagues that works on our schedule, but it's complicated. We're across 3 time zones, multiple weather factors. We're traveling across a continent, and making those changes is something that we have got to be very, very thoughtful about. I do think that we are considering more than ever before this opportunity to change, but it's not something that we're ready to talk about right now." So let's start there about the schedule. And Big Tones, since you've been around the league from the very beginning, what are your thoughts on the schedule? There should be a definite break for the World Cup in 2026. I guess for me, is that a good launching pad to just flip our schedule to be like the rest of the world?
Yeah, so I had the chance to interview Nelson Rodriguez, who works obviously closely with Don Garber. He talked about a couple of things outside of what Don Garber said. He said the one that struck me the most in the interview was he talked about facilities and the size of the facilities, and are the facilities made for cold weather type of environments, right, that they're going to have to deal with. So I thought that part was interesting. This is, by the way, the 3rd time that they've done this. They did it back in 2005. They went through this. It was between the 2005 and 2008 period. They did it 10 years ago where they discussed this changing of the calendar again, and now they're revisiting it, although he did say this is kind of the deepest now that they can go because they have 29 now, going to be 30 teams, so they have a lot of things to think about. I think where they're looking at it best is that it makes more sense from a financial standpoint when you talk about the transfer market, right? Because you get in line with the rest of the world, and then January transfers become the same as they do everywhere else where they're not paid nearly as much. And then the summer window is changed. I think the hardest part about it for any of them, and it didn't make it any easier, I think it was Karl-Heinz Rummenigge for the Bundesliga said something to the effect like, I don't understand why we take off in Germany during the most beautiful months of the year. That was the summertime. For us, getting rid of that period is going to be the most difficult sort of challenge. And he did mention,
it's
I
lovely
asked him,
for teams that don't have to play in Dallas and Houston. I can tell you
yeah,
that. Orlando,
but then there's another argument on the other side, right? In the snow states, right? So that's what they're looking at. And I asked him when we should think we're going to get something. He said he thought that they would be prepared in and around a month from now to give us a decision, because he said, but he did stress that either way, whichever way they go, this is a major decision for MLS.
Isn't the schedule really predicated on the other American sports, in particular NFL, staying away?
Or it was at first,
right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They didn't want to compete with the NFL, and maybe because at the beginning it had to be that way, right?
We were sharing their stadiums, though, Chuck. That was part of it too.
Also true, right? Yeah. So I think we've moved away from that, right? Most teams have their own stadium, soccer-specific stadium, most, but not all. I also add that, teams like the New England Revolution, for instance, when they add a $40 million training facility, one of the best parts of that training facility is their training pitch, which is right outside the locker room. It's all heated. So it's a grass pitch that's heated. So to go off of what Nelson said, teams can train in the winter. That's not an issue anymore. So I don't know how many teams have that type of equipment within their training facility, but I would have to assume the newer ones have all included some sort of heating under the pitch, so they don't have to worry about playing in those frozen environments in February, if that's when, or January, if teams wanted to start the season during those months.
Yeah, it does get complicated. There's no denying that. And he's right. There's only maybe one or two other leagues in the world that have to deal with the same type of elements to take into consideration. And as you add teams, you add another element. Of course, San Diego is always nice all the way around every part of the year. So that's not going to be that big of an issue.
Just do an MLS's back tournament, just to kick off the season. Just play 10 games all in Orlando or San Diego, Chula Vista, and run it back.
Yeah, that would be cool. I remember those games at Chula Vista and down in San Diego. Okay, next one. So Don Garber hints at changes to help some FIFA Club World Cup teams. And his quote was, "We're working on ways that we can provide each team with some opportunity to be more competitive." That's really generic, and there's a lot to unpack with that general of a statement. He also added, we'll get into Leagues Cup participation in a second, but with that particular quote, when I think about salary cap rules, because it's not going to look good, Tones, and we discussed this a little bit, if we go into the FIFA Club World Cup and our two participants, Seattle Sounders, Inter Miami, get slapped around. And so I wonder what they can do in the short term to alleviate that. That ultimately could benefit the whole league. If you think about the salary cap, if you just raise the floor so that teams have to spend an X amount, but then also raise the ceiling at the same time so that the teams that do want to spend can, then I think there's room to solve that problem. But it seems like MLS doesn't want to take off those salary cap handcuffs to that level just yet. Or at least that's how I'm feeling.
And is that Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are a certain percentage of owners that don't want to spend X amount of money more than what they're spending now, versus the ones that say, hey, open my checkbook. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to spend whatever it takes, not only to win, but to make our club a more entertaining club for our supporters, and bringing in experienced players, but also young, diamonds in the rough, to, players that are in the middle of their career, a lot of potential. And I think there are a number of owners who are holding the rest back from that happening.
Yeah, I've long said, and this is 15 years I've been on this soapbox. You guys know I'm a baseball fan, right? So I follow baseball really closely. And when
Red
they
Sox,
instituted, no,
We need some
when
Juan
they
Soto numbers
instituted
here.
the stop, Jimmy, you're killing me today. Not today, man. Maybe tomorrow with that. But if they instituted a luxury tax, I think it would solve a lot of problems. So essentially, what baseball did was you have a salary cap, and I think when they started, it was 180 million, right? Which we're not even close to that. But if teams like my Yankees wanted to spend more, so every dollar you spent more than 180 million, you were basically spending $2. Right. So it cost you $2 for every day. So if you wanted to spend 200 million, then you were really spending 220 million because that other 20 counted as $2. And back in the day, the argument was what they didn't want was this going back to the league and owners just putting it in their pocket. Right. The fight was, okay, we'll spend a luxury tax, but it has to go into your roster. You have to buy players with it. You can't put the money in your pocket. And we've taken off the training wheels, the little training wheels, and we still have some portion of a training wheel on, right? And we need to eventually get, because there are owners in Atlanta, there's owners in Miami, obviously, there's owners all over that are willing to go and spend. I don't think if they take it off, the thing goes like hog wild, because I still think smart owners and smart businessmen will spend what will make them competitive in their market or their business, in this case, in their league. It's not like they're going to go buy PSG's team to compete in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's not what they're going to do, right? They're not going to buy Man City's team to compete in this league, but they will bring better players. To your point, Jimmy, about the roster, you can't just improve the teams that are playing in the Club World Cup. You got to allow everybody to improve at the same level. Yeah.
Right. So for those that don't know, kind of catching up here on the latest numbers, each club has 5.4 million for the first 20 roster slots, and that's known as the senior roster.
What do you think it should be? Double that?
Yes.
Do you think at least double that?
Please,
because
yes.
I'm trying to think in a European roster, if you're trying to compete with, let's say, the likes of Copenhagen who play in Champions League, or the likes of a Europa League team in Syria or Bundesliga, right? And you say, you know what? I would leave that if an MLS team could pay my salary or double my salary. And maybe, let's say I'm on 500,000 in one of these clubs, but I'm playing in Europe, so I feel but if you doubled my salary to $1 million, I would leave as a 25, 26-year-old who's established, because maybe, for whatever reason, I'm not going to take that next step to solidify my spot in a French national team or a Spanish national team. One of these top national teams where you say, all right, I know my limit. I'm not going to surpass whoever's in my position. So I'm kind of enjoying the game. I want to be competitive, but I'm also thinking about the future. If an MLS team could come in and pay someone 2/3 more than what they're making, that's the difference. That's the difference of getting up there at that level, right? And so I'm thinking if they double that, then you have the chance to have a stronger starting 11, or just you have a more depth, right?
You have more depth, yeah.
Right.
So you can compete
5 or 6 more super solid players that could be starters.
Yeah, which would make a huge difference. A huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Saudi Arabia is a good example of going overboard, right? And paying players 2, 3, 4 times more. But you saw enough players that were like, wait, why would they go there? So money can turn heads, I mean, the allure of Europe, I thought, got a hole poked into it a little bit. Once
they go there for a year though, and they're like, get me the hell out of here for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I do think at the minimum, getting it up to 10 million, it just feels simple. Like the floor is 10 million, you can spend up to whatever, and then you have your 3. I don't know if you could lose the designated player. Right now, clubs can acquire up to 3 players with the total compensation acquisition costs that exceed the maximum salary budget charge. So you can get 3 of those. Lionel Messi's the most obvious. 20 million more he's making a year doesn't hit their what does it hit the salary cap by, like 500 grand? And then you have the TAM and the GAM and the green eggs and ham. I'm not even going to get into the complications of that. But ultimately, if you raise the floor of the salary cap, and then you could put a ceiling in there or have a luxury tax like Tony's saying, then I think you get yourself into a conversation where you're going to be more competitive for all the reasons that you mentioned. Tones, any last
Jimmy,
thoughts on this?
Yeah, with a luxury cap, it'll allow some of those other teams a luxury tax fee. It allows some of those other teams to actually get more money from the teams that are spending, as long as they put it back into their roster.
Right.
But the problem becomes, like, there will be eventually someone that sits around just waiting for the luxury tax to make their team better, right? So there's some complications with it. But yeah, we got to
spend in the first place.
Yeah, but you're forced now to spend it, right? So you've agreed now that you're going to take this tax. You can't put it in your pocket. That was the big fight in Major League Baseball for about 2 years, where the George Steinbrenners of the world were worried about, hey, okay, I'm going to give you part of this money, but I need you to spend it in your roster. You can't go have dinner with it, right? You can't go buy another airplane with it. You need to spend it on players, because this is what it's for. I'm paying a tax for players that I brought in. You're going to go buy players with it. You're going to spend it on players. But to Charlie's point, like, is it double? Is it triple? It's so hard to figure out, because we have basically 6 spots that essentially don't count on the salary cap, right? We have the 6 DPs, whether you use two senior DPs and 4 young DPs under 23, or you do 3 and 3. You have that choice now in the league. So there's so many ways to slice it. We are growing, but I still think we need to grow a little bit more. And of course, we're here spending a lot of money of the owners, right? Like, we're really good at that, spending the owner's money, right?
Again, to reference what we saw earlier with the LA Galaxy, what we talked about a little bit earlier, they have definitely laid a blueprint for how to have success and build a roster with these new rules, and maybe with some more additional money, they can help them be more competitive in more competitions. All right, last thing that Garber said. MLS may limit Leagues Cup participation. What? He added, we will participate also in the US Open Cup again next year. All right, way to go, Don. We will likely have more teams than we did in 2024, but it's going to be nearly impossible for all teams to be able to participate in all tournaments. It's just not enough games during the schedule with or without any change in the calendar. Garber also went on to say that we need more MLS versus Liga MX matches. We're looking at modifications that will, I think, make it more focused on what it is that we're trying to achieve with Leagues Cup, which is this great rivalry between Mexico and the U.S. And I agree. I think even when we were playing back in the day, we knew that anytime we got a chance to play against Mexican clubs, either in friendly or in a competition, that those games just felt different. They have a different type of juice. So can you tap into that, not only for the betterment of both leagues, but also just for the players who get to cut their teeth in these games to play in another opportunity, or have another opportunity to play in a high.
Well, Jimmy, it's between,
especially if you play in Mexico,
USL teams versus Liga MX teams, right? If you're talking about US Open Cup or playing against USL teams, in players' eyes and coaches' eyes, and obviously front office, general managers, sporting directors, they're saying, what's better for our group to compete against Liga MX teams where you have top internationals, or to play against USL
or respecting
teams.
history.
And they obviously chose money plus competition. In the end, that's exactly, I think, the way they thought about it.
No.
If you were in that position, would you do the same thing?
Well, I would applaud them for trying to find a vehicle to make that happen and to make those games meaningful and not just some kind of empty friendlies. But I actually think the competition would be more fair if games were also played in Mexico. All the games being in the U.S. gives a huge advantage to the MLS teams, in my humble opinion.
We should, these guys, if you're right, man, if you want to get better, you got to compete in Mexico. And I wonder if any of this has anything to do with it. I wonder if you could do, because it sounds like they're going to at least get close to 18 teams, Mexican teams, and 18 from MLS, and then 12 will play an Open Cup. That was kind of the rumor spreading around at the MLS Cup finals in LA. I wonder if you could do something where if you finish in the top, if you have 18, you finish in the top 9 in MLS, you're a host. And then the bottom 9 that year from Liga MX, they go to America. And then the bottom 9 from MLS, you got to travel to Mexico. I
love that idea, Tony.
And then every day, I mean, not every day, every year something will change, right? So
you might win a Nobel Peace Prize for that.
No, but
I'm just looking for a phone call, Charlie, from someone from the league. That's all.
but also
carried away.
Anything that we can do to add some intrigue to regular season games as well, right? So if you get into the top 9, you get to host a Leagues Cup game. I think that is helpful as opposed to going to travel to Mexico and, potentially getting slapped around.
Hey,
a
we
little
got to
bit.
hire Tony as a some big executive within MLS. This has to be
on
done.
the competition committee. On the competition.
I
don't know.
I don't know who says no to that.
Now.
I don't know who
Big
says no to that.
Tones knows his stuff.
Can I work at this desk right here in Florida? Can I do? Can we get that gig too?
Sure. COVID proved you can work from anywhere and still have success. All right. So we put up a poll on YouTube's, and it is: would you rather play/win the Leagues Cup, or would you rather win the Open Cup? And the winner is Leagues Cup by 52%. Pretty even. That's a coin flip for me. That's a coin flip.
Okay. Let's
The
be
Leagues
real
Cup
though.
over Open Cup.
If
Open
you're a
Cup,
player, you want to win Leagues Cup. It's not even a question.
I think the bonus money is better. That's the reason.
And yes, it's the
I'd
money.
rather win Open Cup.
Stop that
Hey,
BS
what's
now.
connected? What's connected to those wins? Are they both CONCACAF Champions League or what is it now? Sorry, CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yeah.
Is it qualification in both of those? Is it the same as what I'm asking, or is one a little bit higher than the other one? I don't remember. I probably should know this.
For sure has a CONCACAF Champions League spot if you win it.
If you win it.
I don't know
I
about Leagues
think
Cup.
if you get to a
Leagues-
semifinal in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, in the Leagues Cup, you're in it.
We're gonna find
Could
out.
be wrong. Could be just
So you're saying if you're in semifinal of Leagues Cup, you're in CONCACAF Champions Cup?
Yeah, it could be just
Okay.
finalists then. But either way,
yeah.
right? If we're players and we put on our players hat, you're telling me you get a bonus of $1,000 a win if you win US Open Cup, and you get $10,000 a win if you win a Leagues Cup game. On top of that, you're playing better competition. On top of that, you're trying to go to Europe or you're trying to make a move. And scouts are going to look at you playing against a USL team versus you playing against, let's say, a full international from
one game.
any of the South America. Yeah. Don't say one game. It's a meaningful competition. That's what scouts are looking at. They're going to say, okay, how do you match up against the starting center back of Uruguay or Chile or Paraguay in that versus, or a Mexican national team player versus USL? It's clear as day. You'd take the $10,000. Wouldn't even be a question. You'd say, let's play the game.
Hey, Chuck, did you ever win an Open Cup? Because me and Big Tones did. I don't know if it resonates with you. I don't know if it's the same way
I don't
for
know.
you.
Can you tell? No, I didn't. All
right, we're taking our next break.
Cup.
I love the Open Cup. All right, we're taking our next break. Call what you want. When we come back, we're going to get into Americans abroad this past weekend. We got some bad news. We got some decent news, but mainly bad news. So come cry with us right after this.
Oh, jeez.
Soccer brings out a different character in me.
Captain America has taken this team on his shoulders.
He doesn't like to be called Captain America, but I don't care. You are Captain America.
Take a sneak peek into my trailer.
Turn that off.
Pulisic is captain of the U.S. national team.
First time an American has been a main player.
Pulisic won it for Milan.
On one of the biggest clubs in the world. No pressure.
Every game under scrutiny.
I'm a pretty private person. I've got the camera in my face a lot. No, don't do that.
His leadership is unbelievable. I would like him to be a little bit the bad guy.
Christians never wanted the spotlight. These are the kind of goals that create legends.
You don't make documentaries about everybody.
I want to be the best player in the world.
All right, follow the captain on and off the pitch in Pulisic, a new docuseries streaming now exclusively on Paramount Plus and presented by Michelob Ultra. I'll raise my hand and say I haven't watched it yet, but I am excited to dig into this. I'm excited.
He's not the only one that wants to be the best player in the world. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Also,
Cole
Charlie
Campbell.
Davis. Cole Campbell. That's true. Cole Campbell.
Ballon d'Or.
Ballon d'Or, baby. It's all happening. Well, speaking of Christian Pulisic, unfortunately, about 30 minutes into Milan's game away to Atalanta in Bergamo this past weekend, he comes off with a calf injury. He's right now being reported he's going to be out for 2 weeks, but I'm seeing other reports that he might just be shut down until the start of the year in 2025. And that means he could miss a significant amount of games, including Red Star Belgrade in the Champions League this week. You have in the league, they have Genoa at home. They play against Hellas Verona away, and then Roma at home. Now, this version of Roma, I'm a supporter of Roma, yeah, not that great. So they should be all right there. And then they actually go to Riyadh to take on Juve in the Supercoppa. So that will be Supercoppa Italia. We'll see if he's available for that game. That would be the one for all us diehard Pulisic fans to see if he'll be back and ready to go. That should be about 3 weeks. We'll see. Caps are tricky. But Yunus Musa got 90 minutes in this 2-1 loss. Your thoughts, resident AC Milan fan, on Christian Pulisic, of course, Tony Meola, and also just Milan's right now, their performance and how you're feeling about the team overall.
Yeah, obviously, Pulisic's had about 18 months of a pretty good run, right? With no injury. He had a couple of niggling injuries where it kept him out of game, but then he was right back in. This seems to be a little bit longer. Reports I read earlier out of Milan, they're targeting, I should say, that Cagliari game on January 11th, which would mean that he would miss that Supercoppa game in January. Which probably is a game that, if you look at it, is one that you go, okay, we don't stress him out in that game, but it stinks. He's been their number one guy all year, period. And it's going to be tough because they don't do a lot in the attack. They're not a great attacking side without him and the way that they want to play. Yunus Musa has been great. We coming out of the transfer window, we talked about it on this show, what it would look like under Fonseca, how would the window help him. I think, Charlie, you touched on it a bunch of times with Musa, just the confidence, right? Like, he looked, before Pochettino, he looked like a player without confidence. He gives him the start as the right winger, fullback, whatever that position is called right now. And he's taken it with open arms. He had the great game against Madrid in the Champions League that they won. So that's the positive out of this. And hopefully for Christian, this is a short-term thing.
Yeah, Yunus Musa, which is interesting, and I'm glad you touched upon where he's been playing for Fonseca at Milan. He's also playing similar areas for Pochettino. I don't know if we're going to see Yunus Musa in the center anymore, Chuck, despite at times when you name your best 11, you have Musa central. I mean, his two coaches right now for club and country are putting him out wide.
Okay.
He's triggered. I got him.
This is what I'm going to say.
I got him.
How dangerous is Yunus Musa going forward? I'm calm and cool and collected. I love Yunus Musa. I love his ability, but I liken him to a Darlington Nagbe. Okay. Darlington, if you played him in that same position, he would tend to do the same things that Yunus Musa does. But if you want what you want out of that position is someone who can attack 1v1 and not only create opportunities in the attacking third, but score goals. And that's not Yunus Musa's game right now. Not to say that it can't be, but at the moment, what you get from that position with Yunus Musa on the pitch is someone who's good at keeping the ball and popping up and keeping the ball circulating. So you have possession, retained possession. Awesome. But you don't have that threat, the attacking threat. He doesn't have the killer instinct of like, I want my winger going at you. I want somebody who's going to get in behind. I want somebody who's going to, beat you and then get to goal. That's not him right now. He's very calm and someone who likes to pass first, but he tends to go sideways more than forward.
No, and that's going to be a point of concern. However, under Pochettino, he had scored his first ever goal for the national team, getting himself in the box against Panama in Austin. A couple games ago? First game of Pochettino? Anyway, let's talk about some other players, some other performances. We have Tyler Adams. There's something to talk about there. He did not dress for Bournemouth in their come-from-behind 2-1 win this past weekend. Their manager, Andoni Iraola, came out and said he played 290 minutes back-to-back. I'm paraphrasing him here. He had cramps at the end of these games. And so they were being thoughtful about it. He also added the way he plays naturally fits very well with the things we do. He's very aggressive without the ball, very good at reading situations. Sometimes we have to put the brakes on him because he wants to go to everything. He's improving in these things.
That's Tyler.
Exactly right.
He wants to do everything.
Nailed it.
He wants to do everything. So they didn't even dress him. Like, listen, we're not even going to let you dress to get all fired up that you want to play. So they're resting him in that one. Ultimately, I think smart given how much time he's had to spend on the sideline. Returning though, Luca de la Torre returned for Celta Vigo, got a couple minutes off the bench for Celta this past weekend. Mark McKenzie fell to Monaco, playing for Toulouse in a back 3-2-0. Balogun still hurt. He did not dress. Weston McKennie out right now. We're going to get into the Liga MX guys here in a second. Anthony Robinson got to start and obviously going to start, but captain for Fulham in their 1-1 draw at Craven Cottage against Arsenal. Chris Richards, Matt Turner, both dressed but did not play for Crystal Palace in their 2-2 draw with City. And then when we get in the championship, Brendan Aronson played 68 minutes for Leeds, but then everybody else is hurt. Haji Wright out for Coventry, Aiden Morris out, Josh Sargent out, Daryl Dike out. Like everybody's out with injuries in that one, so that hurts a little bit. Leonard Maloney played 90 minutes. Joe Scally played 90 minutes. Gio Reyna came off the bench and played 12 minutes for Dortmund. Cole Campbell did not dress for the black and yellow, so that's not going to help his cause to win the Ballon d'Or, Chuck. I know you want to make fun of him here.
No, I would never.
I'm just kidding. Johnny Cardoso's still out. Timo Weah started and played 79 minutes, and Juve's crazy come from behind 2-2 draw with Bologna on Saturday. That was very cool to see on big CBS. Busio started and played 84 minutes in Venezia's 2-2 draw with Como. So Tanner Tessman played 8 minutes for Lyon. And Malik Tillman,
PSV,
Ledesma, Ricardo Pepi each scored a goal apiece. Played 90 minutes.
Let's go. When is Ledesma going to get a chance? That's what I'm curious.
What do you think?
Of.
At what though? What position?
Yeah, where are you putting?
Well, at the moment, I mean, he could do what Joe Scally does. So we know Ledesma is a central midfielder. That's what he was brought into PSV because he's very good in tight corners and good on the ball. He could play in those tight spaces, in the half spaces, play forward. Very technical player. But where he's developed is finding a spot as a right back. Obviously, defending and being a right back is not natural to him, but he's worked his butt off to put himself on the pitch for a league-winning side, a Champions League playing side. So I think just that alone, he's warranted a call-up. He absolutely deserves a call-up when the way he's been able to.
But has he played a lot though? I feel like
this season he has.
I feel like recently he hasn't played a lot at right back. He hasn't gotten a lot of starts.
I think 2 years ago he played a lot. Then he got the ACL tear, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's
and
taken
he came
him a
to
long
NYCFC
time to get back.
for a year, right?
Yep. A nice loan and couldn't really get going. Goes back to PSV and earns a spot.
Yeah, what was cool about the game is Ricardo Pepi also started over Luke de Jong. So
yeah,
maybe that's a sign of things to come. And
finally, Peter Bosch
scored as well. So all three Americans scored in this game. And we didn't. I don't know if we hammered that home enough, but that is pretty remarkable to have all three of our Americans. I'm sure if Serginho Dest was playing, he would have scored as well. That's how well PSV had been playing in this particular game. They take on Brest in the Champions League away from home in France this weekend. We'll see midweek. So we'll see how they perform. But yeah, I guess that's really what I wanted to say about PSV. I mean, at times I feel like they're dunking on some of the smaller clubs, mid-table clubs in Holland. But then when they get in the Champions League, then we're really going to get kind of see how good our players are, how good PSV are ultimately when they take on top competition. So Brest, I don't know if we get to challenge them too much. Brest haven't been great in the last few weeks, but seem to pick up their game for the Champions League the first time ever.
All I'll add, though, is you're telling me he doesn't deserve a call-up? Richie
Ledesma.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem if he got called up. Yeah.
I'm not saying
Marlon Fossey got called up.
I'm not saying
right?
the kid has to start, but he absolutely deserves a call-up.
Yeah. All right, last two players I want to talk about before we let everybody go. Alex Zendejas scored for Club America to help Club America get into the Liga MX final, and he'll be taking on his U.S. men's national team teammate Brandon Vasquez, who also scored for Monterrey, came off the bench to make that happen. Now, Zendejas, who had been coming off an injury, he played 8 of the past 10 matches. He scored the first goal in this game, a very well-taken goal, and I expect him to be in the starting 11 against Monterrey on Thursday for leg 1. I want to get your thoughts, or everybody's thoughts on, do you like a 2-legged final? There's something fun about that as well. Each team gets to play in front of their home fans. Brandon Vasquez came off the bench, scored an absolute peach of a goal, top of the box, top corner. Thank you very much. But he hasn't played much this season, and he's second choice for Martin DeMichelis' team. And right now, Brandon Vasquez is being linked to go to San Jose Earthquakes to play for Bruce Arena, which would be a huge get for the Quakes if they can make that happen, because they've been lacking a consistent number 9, with all due respect to Jeremy Ebobisse, who I think is an underrated player, but
who's out of contract too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Bobasi, right? Yeah.
So the first leg takes place in Mexico City on Thursday, and the return leg will be happening on Sunday in Monterrey. So if you're into Liga MX, if you want to see two Americans play, I highly suggest you making some time on Thursday and Sunday to make that happen. There should be some good games. I assume Mauricio Pochettino and his coaching staff will be making time for that as well. Your thoughts on a two-legged thing, Chuck? I'll come to you first. Your two-legged final. There's something about that I like.
Yeah, there's something different about it.
Yeah,
I've always been a
one-off neutral site
game. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I guess not. It doesn't have to be neutral. Yeah, sure.
But sure, if you wanted to have a two-legged final, each home team gets to have their supporters be a part of it. I don't mind that. But I would prefer just a single game.
I like how MLS has ultimately figured it out. I know it's taken a lot of iterations to get there, but it does put some weight on the regular season that if you are the best team in the final in the regular season, you get to host the game. I think that gives the regular season more juice. So I appreciate that. Big Tones, any thoughts on the two-legged final? Or
yeah, I really do like MLS's version here. You know, your higher seed. If you get to a final, you're going to play it at home. But I do like one. Either way, I like one. I'd hate to see like Champions League have a two-legged final. Like I just like to build up to one day. And hell, why do in 180 minutes what you could maybe do in 90 minutes and get us all in and out of there, right?
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
Yeah, that's just a preference.
No, it's but I'm with you ultimately. But there is something. I'm like, there is something about the two-legged final. It does stretch it out a little bit. Anyway, last story before we let everybody go. Kind of teased it before, but on a much sadder note, Michail Antonio, 34-year-old Jamaican international, West Ham star, got in a serious car accident. He's in stable condition right now in the hospital. There are fears he may not be able to play ever again. He's supposed to be. There's reports saying it's going to take him about 12 months to, at the very least, 12 months before they have definitive answers about his condition. He's got a severely fractured leg. West Ham put out a statement that said West Ham United can confirm that Michail Antonio has undergone surgery on a lower limb fracture following a road traffic accident on Saturday afternoon. Michail will continue to be monitored in the hospital over the coming days. This is sad news for a lot of different reasons. He scored more Premier League goals for the Hammers than anybody else, and obviously for Jamaica as they try to push to get into the 2026 World Cup. We obviously wish him a speedy recovery, but yeah, devastating blow for him and what could be the end of his career. And yeah, I don't even know how to follow up on that, but we did want to give him a shout out to let him know we're thinking about him.
I think it's important just to think, put it into perspective. At least, you go through something like that, you still have your life. That's one. Two, I've been in this situation. And so it took me 18 months to get back into playing a professional game. And I had a little bit more, I think, in terms of injuries that I had to overcome, but it is a long road. And I was 23 years old. I had youth on my side. Not that he's old, but it's a lot harder to come back at that stage in his career. And so for me, I just wish that he has good people around him to keep him positive, to keep him going, because that's ultimately who you're going to really rely on as you're trying to come back. And what's motivating for him, the motivation to keep him going too, because you need goals to get you up out of bed every day. Mine was, playing in that 2010 World Cup, as crazy as it seemed, but I honestly believe if I gave everything I could in these 12-hour rehab days, that I could get back. And I dedicate so much of that to James Hashimoto, who's the trainer with the national team, obviously. Hash was incredible. Every morning, 6 a.m., I'm there in Delaware working out all the way till 6 p.m. every single day. And I started with just standing up and not getting dizzy. So when I look at Michail Antonio, it's what does he have in front of him? A potential World Cup. And so even if it seems impossible, and I'm sure there might be doctors being like, hey, just be happy if you can live a normal life and you can walk and maybe you can jog again, because those were some of the things that were said to me. You just got to keep pushing and force yourself to believe it. And that'll get him further than if he had just listened to some of the doctors or people in the media saying, your career is done, it's over, you're never going to be the same. So I honestly wish him all the best. Know that everybody's rooting for him to make a full recovery, and hopefully he'll get to play in a World Cup, because that's ultimately why he joined Jamaica at this stage in his career, to say, hey, I want to play with the Reggae Boys in a World Cup in 2026, and for that to go away would be terrible. So I hope he can make that dream come true.
Yeah, very well said.
It was so well said, man. You know better than anybody, and can't add anything to it other than saw the images of that car, and lucky he's alive, and just maybe Michail Antonio needs someone like Charlie Davies to give him a call, and be part of his life, because you never know how you can maybe change it, because you have a story that's unlike, anyone's really, and has lived through it. So I don't want to put anything else on your plate, but if you feel that compelled, maybe a guy like him needs a guy like you.
There you go, Chuck.
I'd be happy to talk to him.
Let's make that magic happen. All right, everybody, we're gonna call it a show. We appreciate you hanging out and supporting us like always. We'll be back at you live Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific here on the Glosso America YouTube channel. Until then, have a great week. Enjoy the Champions League, the Europa League, and we're going to break it all down for you when we get back. We'll see you soon. Later.